The 1994 Gibraltar crisis over the governor's reserve powers was more than just a constitutional battle. It was a dramatic clash of personalities, political manoeuvring, and a simmering distrust between Gibraltar's chief minister and the British government. These documents reveal a story of frustration, defiance, and moments of outright brinkmanship, as Chief Minister Joe Bossano attempted to push back against London's perceived heavy-handedness. It had started well. The relationship between Sir John Chapple and Joe Bossano was an amicable one. In fact, the governor comments on being invited to the Chief Minister's home for an informal drink. He then, however, proceeded to report back in detail to London on the contents and decor of the house. Perhaps a cautionary tale for local politicians. The documents, marked confidential and restricted, show that Joe Bossano felt increasingly sidelined by the British government, which he accused of treating Gibraltar as a colony rather than a self-governing democracy. One of the most explosive moments came when the Chief Minister confronted London with an ultimatum over the use of the governor's reserve powers. Extraordinary constitutional measures allowing Britain to bypass Gibraltar's elected officials. According to the correspondence, Joe Bossano warned that if these powers were ever used, Gibraltar would go straight to the United Nations to demand international intervention. The Chief Minister reminded British officials that in 1964, Gibraltar's leaders had been given a firm assurance that it was inconceivable these powers would ever be invoked. One of the letters shows Joe Bossano at his most combative, declaring that if Britain tries to implement economic or political policies against Gibraltar's will, he will be down in the streets with the protesters, as opposed to being complicit. Mr. Bossano's antagonistic relationship with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office is a recurring theme in the letters. One of his grievances was an FCO press briefing in London, which suggested he had been ticked off by British ministers. This he saw as a deliberate attempt to undermine his authority back home. He was furious, stating that the British government was deliberately humiliating him in public and making him appear weak before his own electorate. Another important discussion in these documents is one of European integration. Joe Bossano felt that the UK was treating Gibraltar differently to other territories and was forcing Gibraltar into compliance without acknowledging its unique economic needs. In one particularly theatrical exchange, Joe Bossano tells Sir John Chapple their meeting would be the last of its kind. He then agreed to have an informal lunch with the governor, but called it the Last Supper, implying that political relations were so bad there might be no coming back from the brink. In the end, the battle over the governor's reserve powers remained unresolved. London did not explicitly move to use them, but neither did it assure Joe Bossano that they never would. In fact, one letter from Sir John Chapple hints at this belief. He tells the Foreign Office the Chief Minister believes he already has a blueprint for the use of reserve powers in his drawer. The Chief Minister remained on a war footing, convinced that Gibraltar's autonomy was under threat, and that the UK was preparing to take more direct control behind the scenes. Although these letters have now been cast into the public arena, parts of them remain redacted to this day.